Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Inky Thoughts podcast. Today, we're returning to a topic we've sort of been touching about on quite a bit throughout the podcast, more directly sometimes, like we did with Kes Richardson and with Paula Castle as well. But we're going to be talking about ethics within the tattoo industry, and especially within the art and craft of tattooing. And I couldn't have asked for a better guest today, coming highly recommended actually by a former guest of the show, Adam McDade, who's told me to shut the fuck up basically today. So I'll try and listen to that, Adam, because I know you're probably watching this at some point or listening to it. But yeah, my guest today is very keen on this. She, from what I've been told, implements quite a lot in her own tattooing practice and wants to promote this to anyone she can, that there is a way to implement ethics that in a smooth way that also both improves your practice, but also how you are with people in this very intimate industry and craft. But before I butcher this and go on way too long, Lozzy, would you please introduce yourself?
That puts so much pressure on me. So like I'm highly recommended. Okay, my name's Lozzy. I'm sorry, there will be a cat in this as well. My name's Lozzy. I'm 33. I'm a tattoo artist. Currently co-own a studio in Worthing called Heart of Glass. I've been tattooing for 9 years. I was previously an illustrator, and yeah, I would love to talk about ethics in tattooing.
Now, because I can't help myself, and you also touched upon it a little bit there in your introduction too, and you're not going to escape this just like nobody else has. How did you go? Let's start with the tattooing itself, actually. We can talk about how you got into tattoos afterwards, but how did you go from being an illustrator to being a tattoo artist?
I so I'd always sort of been. Oh, sorry, the cat is like causing mayhem. I'd always been interested in tattoo culture, just like macabre sort of
Oh,
influences. Like I was, quite alternative from a young age. I remember going to like Camden Market as a 11-year-old and just like wide-eyed and absolutely just being like, this feels like something. This is something I want to be part of. I got my first pair of like big baggy jeans and a chain and like fingerless gloves and just joined the
and we all know
masses.
big baggy jeans, tattoos.
Right, truly, absolutely.
Straight
Because
line.
again, like, that was my first introduction to it, like seeing all these like really cool alternative people covered in tattoos, just being like, wow, they look cool. I'm interested in that. I'd always been quite inspired by tattoo art and it influenced my illustration a little bit as well. And I did an art degree, and then once I finished uni, I did a placement year in the middle of my art degree where I went and did loads of internships in places to try and get a sort of foot in the door of the illustration industry. My university wanted me to go and do, work in like design studios and do really stuffy internships and making people tea and just being,
Oh,
present
yes.
present in it. And I was just like, fuck that. I'm gonna go and work with like a jewelry designer, a latex clothing designer, and I'm gonna go to Berlin for 4 months and go and, I don't know, ask this tattoo studio that I really like what I can do to help them. And
I mean, you're the same age group as me, so going to Berlin for latex design sounds pretty ideal in our generation.
it was good fun. It was good fun. I was there for about 4 months, and I spent maybe like a few days a week at AKA Berlin. And the manager at the time, Hannah Graves, who is like an incredible like I don't know, like tarot reader, businesswoman now. She's really made her career through that, and she was the manager there at the time, and she sort of, yeah, like really introduced me into that world, and it was a beautiful sort of kickstart. Like it really lit a fire under my ass. Like I wanted to just being surrounded by tattoo artists and getting to sort of experience them on a semi daily basis, like was just so wonderful. You know, when I wasn't out getting absolutely wasted in Berlin clubs. Um,
I
but
mean, not been, but I mean, from the neighboring country, I know what happens there.
it was good fun. Anyway, but meant
Yeah.
I could go back to uni and sort of really start thinking about where I wanted to go and whether or not I wanted to maybe look into getting an apprenticeship. And I did that after uni. I did a bit of freelancing, illustration wise. It didn't pay very much, needed a bit more consistency. Um, I worked like the desk at a tattoo studio, and it just, again, it just sort of really, like, I don't know, galvanized me. I really wanted to be in this world.
Yeah.
I felt so aligned with it and fascinated by it and just excited by it. So yeah, I got an apprenticeship after that. And God, yeah, like it's been a wild 9 years. It's been very sort of, you know.
But I'm curious to know, did you have tattoos already then when you got your apprenticeship? Did that sort of happen through uni
Yeah, I
or?
got my first tattoo when I was 14.
Oh wow.
It was, yeah, there's a reason 14-year-olds shouldn't get tattooed.
Yeah.
Um
Yeah.
still there, but it was you know, a £20 job in an absolute hovel, and
Oh.
I was
Yeah.
the
That's
coolest
usually how
I was the
I'll say
coolest
this. That's
14-year-old for
usually
five
how
minutes.
14-year-olds get tattooed. Like it's a 20-pound job in a hovel.
To be expected, but I thought I was
Yeah.
so cool, so
Mm.
it just snowballed from there. I got a few, and
But in a way that might actually as the two artists at least have taught you the difference between like wanting a tattoo for you or wanting it just to be cool and like in and stuff like that.
I think I was before I was sort of maybe in my 20s,
Hmm.
and had got a few tattoos. I didn't really care. I didn't really care. I
No.
just wanted tattoos. And like
Yeah.
I drew them and then got them tattooed, and it was just, oh, it was like a really, yeah, it was awful. They were so bad. Some of them are getting covered up. Um, I'm keeping my first one that I got when I was 14 though, because it's just
Yeah.
ridiculous. And I think it's nice because it's having like a very visual memory. It's really nice to just remember, you know,
And a
who I
warning
was.
to any teen that goes in the door in your studio.
We're checking IDs, believe me.
Yeah, yeah, no, I'd imagine so.
But yeah.
But I will say that it sort of brings a little bit to the point of what we're going to talk about today, because you sort of also been around, it sounds, in the studio. Like you've both done the wrong thing, you've done a lot of the right stuff as well. You've worked the desk, you've co-owned a studio yourself now, you've been through the apprenticeship, all that stuff. I know most tattoo artists go through an apprenticeship at that as well, and a
Yeah.
lot of, especially female artists, often have also tried working desk as well. But still, it's important to think about that you have been around in the different roles in the studio as well.
For sure, and it wasn't it wasn't a linear sort of thing. Like I
No.
wasn't good at running the desk at the tattoo studio. I was not. I was very. I first did that when I was like in my 20s. Actually, I ran it at Parliament, which is
Oh,
like an incredible studio.
yeah.
And I think I was there in its quite early state. I think it maybe had only been open for a year, and I was just absolutely obsessed with like the work of the artists who were there, and I desperately wanted an apprenticeship. And
Mm,
I think and I was a very anxious 20-year-old. Like I was really sort of, I was so awkward. I just didn't really know what I was doing, and I wanted this so badly, but I knew I wasn't
yeah.
gonna get it here, and so I just
Oh,
wasn't really like at that time built for that kind of work. When I was just constantly in a state of yearning, I think I was just yearning for
started to sound like a Jane Austen
yeah,
novel.
truly, honestly, like third degree yearns always.
That does sound like a chapter in your memoir later on in life. Constant yearning, like.
I do love a good yarn. But yeah, it was it really just opened my eyes to the industry, and really I started really fantasizing about it, and really wanted to. So I started, searching for an apprenticeship. But my apprenticeship experience wasn't the most traditional.
No.
No, I'd like I started an apprenticeship in London, and it just didn't work out. Like, it was just, I think that, clashes of personalities, and it was one of those, felt quite old school. I think, I would have been taught very well if I had stayed there, but
Yeah.
I think my mental health would have suffered. So I left that experience, and ended up sort of finishing my apprenticeship, or moving on to a studio in Worthing. So I was commuting from London to Worthing, and one of my really good friends worked there and wanted to apprentice me, and it was like, it felt like coming home. It was beautiful. It was such a contrast to what I'd gone through, but it was quite
Like it
hands
felt like a
off.
great fit in a way.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was just like, right, I'm home. This is brilliant, and
Mm.
this is an opportunity to actually do this now. Like, I was so hungry for it, desperate. Like, by that point, I felt quite defeated by quitting my
Mm.
first apprenticeship experience, because I was always a very goal orientated person. I still am, and
Mm.
I felt like I'd given in. Like, it felt really shameful, and I didn't want that. So I was so
But
happy to finally be in a place that, felt right.
But I do think that's sort of. I mean, I'm not a tattoo artist myself, but researchers and sociologists have been talked with so many tattoo artists of many different generations and all the stuff. Read on the history of it. I think it's sort of built into modern tattooing sometimes. This shaming of people that quit somewhere, even if it's just not the right fit for them. They might still be great artists someday. But I mean, some artists don't. I've also met people that absolutely can see, okay, I'm just not the right one to teach you. Go
Yeah,
find somewhere else. But they're just looking from the outside in. There still seems to be a lot of like shaming built in, that like, oh, you couldn't hack it there. You don't deserve this. You're
truly,
like, so I get why you would feel that shame, because
absolutely.
it's
And
sort of
and again, I was
built
I
into
was
the system of becoming a tattoo artist in a way.
absolutely,
You
and I
know?
was I was in my early 20s, and I'd pre-therapy, and I just sort of
I was about to say, not exactly a prime no shame era for any person,
PT,
but
PT, we call it PT, like, so it's and I didn't know how.
yeah,
I didn't. I was a big people pleaser. I didn't know how
yeah,
to say no or stand up for myself.
no,
And also, when you're a young, hungry creative, and you have been given this opportunity that does feel just like, it feels like magic. It's like, finally, oh my God, this is
I mean,
amazing. This
I,
is
I,
like,
I can compare with how when I finished my masters, I just was immediately, like many who do academia in our generation, unemployed, looking for job opportunities. That I've already started researching tattoos throughout my academic career. Couldn't find anywhere to want to hire a qualitative sociologist. So when the first, I would later learn, incredibly shitty publication wanted to hire me, I just jumped at the chance, even though the pay was shit, and
any
they
opportunity is a good
ended up,
opportunity, or that.
exactly. And it's not that I didn't learn nothing from there. I did, but I mean, I've learned way more from later opportunities in life. I will say that much. Like,
I
but
think, and sometimes
I
I
get where you
I
want.
truly believe that, like, the most uncomfortable of experiences are the most transformative. So I
Again,
I I learned exactly what I didn't want, or I
mm,
learned, what I couldn't handle or tolerate,
mm,
and it was a really important experience. And there's a sort of like, I'm sort of grateful for it in a way, even though it was,
mm,
hard, and
yeah.
I didn't wasn't as sort of emotionally, I just didn't have the strength at the time, and so giving up meant, like, I couldn't handle it anymore. um but yeah, like, finding the place that I did fit was, that was transformative in itself. So
Well, that's what I mean. I mean, I'm not at all subtracting for, and I think it's beautiful when people, especially like yourself. I mean, you seem even better get at it than most people I've met, including myself, for taking something great to learn from even a bad situation. But I still I'm always going to argue for this because most psychological science actually points towards it. You do actually learn better from positive reinforcement and feeling comfortable and being at home somewhere than
Yeah,
you could ever do in like. It's just which sort of is on the topic of today. There's sort of also an ethics to that of how you bring people into this industry, of how you apprentice people. Because I
absolutely.
think I absolutely don't want to argue against that. It is a hard industry to get into, and it's tough to apprentice. Not saying should be the case. Not saying you should start waiting on people's hand and foot when they want to apprentice under you. But it's also an ethical way to do that.
Truly, and that's
Because
something I am like incredibly.
like you hear, I mean, I've heard tons even just on this show of horror stories about what people were made to do
Yeah,
during an
like
apprenticeship.
hazing
And that's
and
fuck all to do with tattooing, and hazing just doesn't really benefit anybody. What the only thing anybody can get out of hazing somebody, because it doesn't teach you how to deal with difficult clients. It actually does
no,
not, because no matter how difficult a client is, they're not going to somehow force you to go clean their motorcycle with a toothbrush. Like,
absolutely.
how would they?
In
You would
a
call the police.
in an experience-based job,
Yeah.
yeah, like you don't want your apprentices to be traumatized. Um, so yeah, I'm incredibly passionate about that.
Yeah.
I've just taken on my first apprentice,
Yeah.
and we're it's going to be a very sort of like, comprehensive studio effort. Like we're all mucking in,
Yeah.
and it's three of us in our studio that are going to be like mainly with her. And I think I wanted her to be sure that this was a place she wanted
Yeah.
to be as well. So we've
Yeah.
started off really slow.
Yeah.
We've not, it's not all or nothing, quit your job, come in, full
No, no.
time. It's like a slow entry, and we want her to be in the space. We want her to get comfortable with the space, shadow us, and
Yeah.
there'll be a structure to it, but it just means that like she gets to know us as people as well, and not just people who are going to teach her a trade. It's important for her to feel safe in our space.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm passionate about using the carrot more than the stick.
Yeah.
And that doesn't
But I
mean
mean, even when it gets tough, I think it's fine to be tough sometimes. We already touched upon something I think is absolutely so vitally important, which is the fact that she's quitting. Tattooing is not like other forms of crafts you learn, at least not in places like Scandinavia and stuff like that, where you might get a apprentice salary that is subsidized by the local government. Doesn't happen. So it requires so much commitment from the person already leaving this time in their life and somehow financing
absolutely.
doing this for nothing,
Absolutely, and the cost of
because
living is
yeah,
crazy. It's like
yeah.
it's so
So
even
leaving that space for them to be comfortable, that's
absolutely
already where the ethics starts,
truly,
because it's
truly,
already going to be tough.
yeah,
Like,
yeah, absolutely. I think that it's like she, we didn't, we weren't going to take on an apprentice. We were, or at least like we were going to wait a while,
yeah,
and she was very persistent. She came in with her portfolio several times over the last like year and a half or so. Uh, we gave her advice. We gave her a portfolio critique, and she went away and came back and had taken all her advice. And there was just so she did everything right in our like what we
yeah,
would look for. She was so committed, and she kept emailing us, but without being like really annoying. But she was very sort of like she was very sort of like can I come in and have and it was nice. It was nice to see that someone, even though, we were busy and maybe we didn't want to take on an apprentice or whatever, it was someone
yeah,
who had taken the advice that we had given her, had
yeah,
put it into practice, had continued with it, and just showed so much like again, hunger and
yeah,
like promise from it. And
yeah.
we're excited about it. It's like
And
it's
also, she's shown a willingness to learn, which is quite a
that's
big part of
and
it.
that's all you want, because you're investing a lot of time in someone and energy, and she understands that this is our first experience as well of apprenticing
Mm.
someone, and this is like we're both this is there's some equity in this, and
Yeah,
we're
in a
and
way, yeah.
which I really appreciate. It's like I can give you tools, but you have to go with them. You have to, it's an
Mm.
experience based job. We can all start you off, and yeah, I'm really excited to progress with her, and I've made it really clear. Um,
That she's not to fuck up. No.
yeah, she can, like, we'll put her in the cupboard and like not let her come out if she's
You come out when we say you come out.
Oh God, yes, no, she's
Speaking of ethics, man.
well, just there will be so much like humanity. We'll treat
Yeah.
her with respect if she treats our time with respect. It's a mutual thing, and that goes for like everyone in the studio.
Yeah.
We all sort of want to operate on an even plane. Like we want to be able to work comfortably,
Yeah.
safely, and harmoniously. So it's a mutually understood sort of ethos,
Yeah.
around our studio.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't been, but I can, judging from some of the pictures of when I saw you at the convention, stuff like that, and, just, passing glances of that, everybody seems quite happy to work together,
I I
and
think
quite comfortable with one another. I
it's
mean, that's what
something
comes
it's
across, at least when I've seen you guys.
absolutely, I think it's something that's important in a studio to like have that harmony and um you know be a team player, but understand that we've all got our own stuff, but we have consideration and compassion
Mm.
for each other, and we all really get on. Like it's a really, really lovely space, and I try really hard not to be like this really overbearing studio owner where I'm just like, is everyone okay? Like, what do you need? Oh my god, like, and I
I mean,
do,
I'll
I
say this.
do,
I mean,
I do that.
one of the other I mean, of most female studio owners I've talked to, especially, but also some others that are male, have all been like, you sort of get this mother bear kind of
Truly, and
like,
me and
I
my
say, like, at least it's the best sign I see with studio owners. Speaking of ethics, because ethics also are coming across when you handle your employees, so to speak, or people in your space in that way. Because the thing is, you know they're going to treat people right and be understanding of what's going on.
I think
Where
so.
they have that feeling of like, hey, are you all right? Is it go? Do you feel okay with your space? What do you need? Sort of
I
stuff
think
like that.
also having a willing, like, so me and my business partner,
Yeah.
Lou, like, we're like mum and dad at the studio, but I think we have such a willingness for feedback as well. Like, and we ask
Yeah.
for it too. I think it's really important to
That's great.
have that sort of, in place, where you try and create an environment where people feel comfortable coming
Mm.
and talking to you, maybe about something they're not happy with, something you're doing that they're not happy with. And I think that, having this, there's a natural hierarchy anyway when you own a studio. As the people who own the studio, you assume the risk. But I'm so passionate about creating an environment where that may be understood, but we're all, no one needs to walk on eggshells.
Yeah.
I am so open to feedback. I want the feedback, even if it's hard to hear. It means I
Yeah.
can do my job better. It means I
Yeah.
can have a studio that is harmonious. It means that people can get along. It means that,
Yeah.
we can create an environment for clients to come in and see that we're all
Absolutely.
happy to work in that space. It creates an atmosphere. Um,
Yeah.
People will, people are empathetic. Like they will feel that if you come in and there's tension or
Absolutely.
whatever, and it's important.
I
It's
mean,
very important.
I've been lucky not for this to happen not too often, but you can feel when you walk into the studio, and these two people here have just had a row. You can sort of sense it, like
There's a real energy.
the
There's a real
body
energy in
language,
it.
the stuff like that. I mean, I'm an atheist. It's not even in a subconscious or spiritual way. It's just you pick up on this stuff. We
Absolutely.
humans, we can pick up on these things about each other subconsciously through body language or anything like so yeah, you feel uncomfortable if you go into a space that feels like, okay, these people just do not get along, they're just here to earn money, that's it.
Absolutely. And the thing is that, for the most part, a load of tattoo artists are like, anxious introverts, and maybe they don't feel able to sort of come to you
I
and
want to make them more aware of that. To trust me, I've done my best, because you are all sensitive art kids, even the ones that say they aren't.
Truly. There's the real spectrum of it as well. You get like the obnoxious.
I feel like the tough and gruff academic, which says a lot when I talk to you guys. It's like, Jesus, you're all so fucking sensitive, and you all pretend like you're not.
Such artists, yes. No, I mean, like, that's the thing. We are, and that's the reality of it, right? So I think when me and Lou opened the studio, like, I wanted it to be a space that was for clients to feel comfortable and have the best possible experience they could have, but also for the artists. And I think that that's something that gets a bit missed out in conversations around ethics in tattooing, is that creating an environment for your co-workers to thrive in as well as your clients. So it's like those things need to be in tandem
this because I think ethics often get only tied up to hygiene and safety.
Right. And then
that's absolutely important.
It's a facet, it's a factor of it for sure.
But it's not all of it.
No.
Ethics is also about, which I think, reading you also from when we were conversing before the episode started, both you and I seem much more keen on the social aspects of ethics, so to speak. But something you said also reminded me of a really important thing that Colton James actually pointed out when we were talking about being a studio owner when he was on the podcast, which is the thing that the way you're talking about ethics reminds me of an important thing to talk about being a studio owner, and they sort of allow for each other the thing you just said and what he said, which is you could sort of help if you have a tattoo artist that might not be used to dealing, for example, with a client that's having a difficult time or has a complaint or something like that. They're leaving space for feedback the way you're talking about. Also leave space for them to come up and be like, for example, with your apprentice, the first time they handle a difficult client, them knowing they can come to you and not feel embarrassed about not how to handle that, leaves them space to come to you and say, hey, this guy's being really, for example, let's say it's a guy being inappropriate. They feel safe coming to you and saying that then.
Absolutely.
Or it could just be a client that at a drop of a hat decided, I don't like that design at all now. And they don't know how to accommodate that,
Absolutely. And so to be able to know that they are supported in that, and that, that space is open always for dialogue and support. I think it's, a really important factor in tattooing and owning a studio.
Absolutely. I mean, you could sort of headline this little section of our interview like ethics of studio ownership. Like it's a vital part of it, I would feel. And some people do it, like when you talk to some of the other guys that are doing better, like Lal Hardy or Robbie Ripple, who I know from Florida. They do this implicitly because they've been very lucky to learn it somehow through other aspects of their life. But most tattoo artists, especially in the older generations, have not. And they're just like, you just got to buckle down. And if they've been difficult, kick them out or something like that. Like, there's a lack of this whole noticing the teachable moment, and the moment where if you're open to it and open to the feedback, open to helping and leave that space there, it just becomes ethically safer mentally also to be in that studio.
Absolutely. And I think that it's when you're in a studio, the nature of tattooing, that artists will, like, there will be a rotation, like people will things will happen in life, they'll want to move on, maybe they've just sort of like exhausted everything there, different plans, that's fine. And again, it's like having peace around that as well as a studio owner, knowing that is the nature of the beast, and showing support for that as well, where I think that there are, in my experience, it's like there can be a lot of bad blood when people leave, like depending on what circumstances they leave under. And I think that, that's something I absolutely don't want. I want people to feel like they can spend a portion of their career in this space that we all build together. And if they want to move on, they can. If they want to open their own studio, they absolutely should. And I want to help, and I want to, support them in that. Because I don't camaraderie. I don't own anyone that works with me. I don't possess them. They aren't.
Talk about bad ethics. The quagmire of owning somebody.
Truly, well, but just the
That's
the possessiveness,
no,
I
I get what
think.
you,
Do
I
you know
get
what I
what you mean,
mean?
but there
Like the
is that,
possessiveness about it.
because as much as
Especially
I can
when
understand some artists. Oh yeah,
especially
sorry.
when money is involved, you
Yes,
know? So I
yes,
think that it's like,
absolutely.
you know, we when we opened the studio, it's like I wanted to have
Mm.
the most ethical business model, you know, like I wasn't out there to make loads of money off the people that
No,
are working with me. And again, I don't think people talk about this a lot. And I
no,
think that it's you know, I tattoo. I make my own money. Like what I wanted was for the sort of standard business model of studio ownership to support a space, you know, and to be
yeah,
transparent with that. So it's like if we do make profit, then we're transparent about that. We tell you where
yeah,
your money's going. And which is why we, you know, we revisit and make sure everyone sort of has what they need. We've invested money in like good equipment, you know,
yeah,
that keeps everyone sort of relatively comfortable. Back support, you know, classic like beds for clients, all these sorts of things
yep.
that I think like get missed out sometimes when people are opening studios. Like you know, things that is investing
I
in
think you're
the
very
people.
correct.
Investing in the people that are working with you and showing them that you care about the longevity of their time with you and you care about their personal comfort,
Yeah,
you know, and that's just the artists in the studio,
yeah.
and then that all feeds into like you know
Well, it's also just very ethical to be like, okay, if you're having that kind of model where sort of some of the income they have each feeds it back into the studio, being transparent about what that's used for is very ethical of you. Whereas with a lot of, I mean, I've met plenty that are great actors in this, but also met some that are quite bad, where there seems to be a barrier. You know, that just like no, as soon as the money crosses into the pocket of the owner, you don't get to talk about it anymore. You don't get to know what happens with it. That's their business, and
and
they're
I
like,
mean the thing is
that's
that
just
that's
not
like
good.
that yeah, this is the thing, it's like fine, do it that way. That's not how I want to do it. Like I would
No,
rather there be transparency, and then I think because I can only touch upon my own experience with it, is that
yeah, of course, yes.
there is a cycle where you know you may feel like you're working at a studio, you're paying a certain amount of rent, and maybe you're not getting a lot from the studio, you know, and then a
Yeah,
resentment can sort of build up. And you maybe feel like you're slightly being taken advantage of, or like you don't know where that's money's going, or it's not any of it is being invested in the space. And I think that that's where the sort of like being a business owner versus being a tattoo artist who is owning a tattoo studio. I think those two things are, you know, like I think I have more respect for this one. You know, I have more respect
yeah.
for I understand it's like some people, you know, do it well. Some people do
Yeah.
really immerse themselves in the culture of it. But ultimately it is still business, you
I
know?
will also say though, I've met plenty of tattoo artists who are bad studio owners
Yes,
and
absolutely.
horrible
They're not
to the
mutually exclusive,
artists.
but
No,
it's
no, no.
important that I think that coupled with transparency and investing in the space, the artists, you know, the
Yeah,
client's comfort, I think that while you're working still, I think
yeah.
that there's less of a chance there for your artist to resent you. Basically, like or want to leave, you know. It's like ultimately we'd like people to stick around, but if they need to move on they can, but it's like we want to just
Well, I at least very much say being ethical about how the money is being spent and invested and open about that will ultimately almost automatically create more comfort and more longevity through that comfort with anyone working there. Because
absolutely. And I think it's
it
just
creates
being
trust, and
creates
trust is
trust,
important that way.
and I think that's a you know that's an important word, you know. I think that trust feels like a foundational
Yeah.
phrase in my practice as a tattoo artist in every
Well, it's
single
at the core
area.
of it. With
Yeah,
clients, with fellow artists, with people that work under you, it's the core of it.
absolutely. And there is a responsibility in that. So it's like, you know, my understanding of um, my ethics around
Yeah.
tattooing, it's like, no, it's not just hygiene. No, it's not just, you know, like it's a responsibility that we're given. You know, it's a responsibility to the client, to the fellow artist, to the space, you know, to ourselves. And yeah, that's how I sort of that's how I move through the industry. That's how I move through tattooing.
No, absolutely. I mean, it makes sense. I focused on the clients as well. I think it's vitally important there, especially because you talked about power dynamics earlier, which of course they're also present between a studio owner or artist and apprentice and all that stuff. But the most vital power dynamic that people often aren't trained to notice, I think, as tattoo artists, even though they're keenly aware of it implicitly, in a weird paradoxical sense, is the one between you and client. Because I think artists today often moan a lot about, oh, they want to change all the time and they have so many requests. And if I'm not that popular, I need to make this design exactly how I want it to earn my money. And I get as a creative person, there's a loss of power there. But as soon as they're in the studio and in your chair, that dynamic switches completely the other way.
Truly.
And
Truly.
There's a massive importance in noticing that switch.
Yeah, and that sort of perception that you just went through, that's fueled by ego.
Yeah,
you know, and so absolutely. It's like I think that understanding that you have this power dynamic and you have a responsibility to not for harm reduction, you know, like in the process of that, and that person's experience is more than the tattoo you're giving them. That person's experience is down to, again, the atmosphere, the interaction, the transaction, you know, vulnerability. It's such an inherently vulnerable situation to be in. And so I think it's incredibly important to create that environment where that person feels safe and can trust you. And you put your ego to bed. You know, that person is allowed to make changes. That person is wearing that tattoo for the rest of their life. So, yeah, like I think that trust is so important, and that environment is so important to build direct to client. You know, from artist to client while they're in the chair. You have to
Absolutely.
Connect with them in that way.
I mean, I'm just very keen on getting that message out there myself as well, because I've seen people, and I know they're half joking, but that's the main problem for me is it's half joking. I'm not going to name any names, but there are just some people spreading reels and jokes about when you just look at the tattoo scene online. It's like, oh, people just used to be told to shut the fuck up and sit through the tattoo and stuff like that. And it's just, yeah, but that was a problem. Like that's again that like we were talking about before we recorded. That's that short period in tattooing. Like it's not even a blip on the radar in the history of tattooing and how the clients have been treated throughout centuries of this art form.
Absolutely,
millennia. That why do we glorify this idea of like, oh, shut the fuck up, bitch, and just sit through it?
I also think
that's not how you get people to enjoy it or sit through a vulnerable moment, and it's fucking vulnerable.
And you know what? It might be a bit sassy of me to say, but like those people who even if those people are just like, it's a harmless joke, right? It's a harmless joke. It's a harmless reel. It's a TikTok, whatever. You know, I think those are often the people who are just like, oh, I'm really quiet. You know, like, or like business has gone, you know, business has slowed down. Like, oh, I'm really annoyed, you know, I'm really frustrated and all this sort of stuff. It's like, don't shit on your clients online. Don't do that. Like, it's people, people can see you.
I even see popular people doing it, and they feel this immunity from being popular because they become sort of
no one's immune. No one's immune. But
they become what some sociologists would have argued as a social entrepreneur in a way. Like they sort of become the trendsetter in a certain sense to some extent, and that sort of gives them this idea that they can get away with it to some extent, you know. Shitting on clients, and it's just not a good idea.
It's awful. I think it's awful. I think that it's really disrespectful. You know, there may not be immediate consequences, but you'll see if you continue on that route, like you will see consequences. You will be quiet. You know, like
Absolutely.
I think that
absolutely
nurturing
or like we talked about before the recording. You will get a very specific sort of clientele, and you may not like it.
Absolutely. I think that, you know, I think it's so important to like nurture those relationships with with your clientele directly
Absolutely.
to create a client base. That's like, we all talk about having a client base. We have recurring clients, but there are some that are more loyal and committed than most, and
Often the ones that feel comfortable.
the ones that feel comfortable, the ones that feel safe, the ones that feel don't taken the piss, don't feel like they're being taken the piss out of online.
Yeah.
They it's an anxiety inducing experience, and I
Yes, I
think
mean,
that
especially when you're new to it.
truly, and I think that just show your clients some respect. Like, they've afforded you this,
Wow.
you wouldn't be here without them. So I think it's
Exactly why I titled this episode "Don't Bite the Hand."
absolutely. I think
Because that's
it's
the whole thing what ethics is about when you move beyond. I mean, even with the hygiene and safety aspects, that's the same thing. Don't bite the hand that feeds you. Because I know that we couldn't get tattooed without artists, but sorry to say, we would get along without that. You guys live by this.
it's a mutually beneficial relationship.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely mutually beneficial. But my point is just that when artists say like, "Oh no, great," like they're very rare today. Thank fuck for that. But you do see artists that are, through the years or even now are like, "Oh no, clients should be grateful they get to be tattoo artists." But the fact of the matter is, the client might still have a
Ooh,
job tomorrow if they didn't have tattoos. You wouldn't if they don't come and get tattooed. So
absolutely.
I'm sorry to say, but the power dynamic is a little skewed for good, I think, actually.
Like, be grateful. My God.
No,
And I think that it's like
because
when
yeah,
you do show that you care
yeah,
about your client
yeah,
relationships, those people will keep coming back. They will
absolutely,
just be until
absolutely.
until they're full, like until
And a
they
lot of it's
can't.
just open communication as well.
Absolutely.
I can't remember what's actually because we've talked about them because I know you're friends with one of them and you know if you're quite a fan of the other. I can't remember if it was Cass or Paula or it might actually be someone else, but not a guest in the show once. I did speak to them also about this idea that like I'm not saying that then you should treat every client like it's your favorite client ever, like no, but being open about it. Like, let's say a client is like, "Oh, why didn't you put my tattoo up on your Instagram?" Just don't treat them like they're asking the dumbest question in the world. Just explain that, hey, this is why, and they'll probably understand. People are not as
Absolutely.
thick as you
Absolutely.
make them out to be. You know?
And I mean, the thing is that, like, I'm very vocal about the fact that I got, especially with my clients, I'm very vocal
Yeah.
about the fact that I got like an ADHD diagnosis a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
And so it's like, a lot of my clients, like, I talk about ethics with my clients, quite a lot of the time, and I
Nice.
talk about this sort of stuff. And sometimes it will come up in conversation, and it's just like, there are times where I am a chaos demon and I forget to, like, function at base level. So it's like, posting on Instagram sometimes doesn't
Yeah.
even come into it. But
No, no.
however, it's really, because you mentioned Kez. It's like, I love when Kez talks about some of those methods in reaching those client bases, and not necessarily
Yeah.
relying so much on social media, where it's like having a mailing
Yeah.
list.
Yeah.
I've always I've had a mailing list for quite a few years now, and even though I don't send regular, like, super regular mail outs, and I would like to start doing it a bit more actually, but I think it's like having that direct to client line of
Yeah. Absolutely.
contact means that it's like those people want to be there, and
Yeah.
you get to sort of have a community. It's like community building.
Mm.
um so yeah, like, I don't know, just don't. Yeah, I think that when clients ask you basic questions, like, they'll be like, why didn't you put that up, or like, sorry, this might seem really silly, or I don't know if I'm doing. It's just like, just treat them like they're people. Just
Exactly.
don't antagonize
But
them. Don't
because
tell them one thing and then go fucking post a shitty thing.
yeah, oh, I've seen so many do that. It's so batshit crazy to me when it's like, that they clearly at the moment answered this client's question and then they go bash them online. I don't care if they censor who they are. they'll know.
Absolutely.
They will
And then,
see.
and then
They'll
and that
recognize the
person,
tattoo idea, whatever you mentioned there. It's gonna hurt them.
and that person will never come back to you. You know.
And speaking as a person that knows a fair bit about tattoo regret because I've researched it, that's a direct road to tattoo regret. When the tattoo artist suddenly is a piece of shit to you.
And how horrible is that? That they have to wear that for the rest of their life, having had a bad experience. And it's like such a delicate balance, isn't it? It's like one little thing can just make that person look at that.
But I think that's exactly the thing, an important point to make that I also made with Cass. She was very keen on making it as well. Now you talk about delicate balance. Is the fact that I think way too many imagine going too far with it when we are talking about care about your clients, and they think they're going to become therapists. May I say, as a social scientist, to anybody listening to this or watching this, I don't want you to be a therapist, but do recognize you have a duty of care because it's a very intimate setting.
Absolutely what I make.
No, I would actually highly request that tattoo artists, even though you sit there for hours with a client sometimes, do not try to be therapists.
Well,
because you're not trained to be.
Here's the thing with this is that like sometimes like inadvertently like you end up in you know having vulnerable conversations with people, right?
Absolutely get that.
And I think especially with like, you know, neurodivergent people, but anyone who, you know, has empathy, like it's hard not to like absorb that, right?
Absolutely.
You know, and
I'm not saying that don't do that.
No, of course no. But what I'm saying is that like I think that clients will come and get tattooed by you. Maybe it's like a memorial tattoo. Maybe there's like, you know, some delicate meaning. Maybe that person is just like, you know, they've got some stuff going on. And if they trust you, you know, there's a good chance they'll open up, you know, or the conversation will be steered in a direction where, you know, it can get quite emotional. And I think that it's important to let that person emote in the way that they need to. Like it's a catharsis for them. You know, they're in a vulnerable position, especially when the body is put under stress. It's like, you know, that can be a really healing moment for them. And it's a two-way street. I'm not saying like trauma dump on your clients, but if you're having a conversation where it's like a beautiful transaction or like exchange of you know, lived experience, like it can. I've had some sessions with clients where you know it's mutual. Like we're both touching upon quite like, you know, hard stuff, and afterwards it's like, you know, it's like you've had a therapy session, but we're not trained for that. You know, we're not trained for that, but you do pick up stuff like in the process of like being in your throughout your career, which, you know, just means that you can hold that for that person for the short time that they're with you. And that's not to say that, you know, it can't get quite triggering at points, you know, like maybe they'll be like really traumatic.
I was about to say that it's also, I actually spoke with a friend of mine on an episode I recorded recently about this, where we focused a bit more on tattoo artist mental health. That if I could recommend something as a sociologist, no, I'm not a psychologist, but trust me, very adjacent. The fact of the matter is, you also need to protect yourself sometimes, because it's okay to set a boundary, especially on a day where you might not feel up for it. And
Absolutely.
say, hey man, I can't handle this conversation. I can't.
And I think
I really want to help, but you know,
where I sort of stand with that is that because a large portion of my client base are like, you know, neurodivergent and maybe like struggle with like rejection sensitive dysphoria and all that sort of stuff. Like, and I would never ever want to make someone feel anxious during that. So say it does get onto a topic of conversation that is quite traumatic, or I'm having a bit of a, you know, like I'm having a day. It's more about knowing the tools to like steer conversation rather than
that is the best way to do it. You know?
Rather than just shutting it down and being like, oh, don't want to talk about that. Sorry, babes. You know, like I think I'd rather, you know, be able to
absolutely,
you know, steer that conversation in a way where it's you know, it doesn't have to be positive, but like just away from the really triggering thing. Because ultimately,
that's also
it's like
absolutely the best way to do it.
when you're in that when you're in that exchange, when you're in a tattoo session with someone, and you are talking about heavy things, tattooing alone is can be like mentally exhausting. By the end of a session, you're just like, I've been staring at a leg for like 6 hours. I'm really tired. When you throw like, potentially quite emotionally charged conversation on top of that, it can be more exhausting, and you can just be like an absolute puddle by the end of the
Completely
session.
draining, to be honest.
For sure, but it's one of the things about the job that I love the most, that client artist connection, just being able to hear someone's life story like in a few short hours, or building a rapport with a client who keeps coming back to you because they enjoy, they've become, like a friend in that environment. And it's lovely to be able to check in with them and see how they're doing. But I just think that it's like I wouldn't want to stop someone from feeling like they can emote or express, sort of hard truths or hard things like during a session. But it is true. You have to sort of learn skills and tools to protect your own energy as well.
This is a very good idea to do so because as you say, I mean, I would almost argue it's impossible to imagine it not happening in a long tattoo session. Because I mean, using the thing people love to compare you guys to, the hairdresser or the barbers, even in such a short interaction, at least from a male perspective, very short interaction, but it can still happen.
Absolutely,
You talk about hard stuff.
Sometimes I find
it's
even
inevitable that it.
Even the shorter sessions, like we'll get into it like straight
Quick
away.
little...
It'll literally be like, right, cool, like give me the juice, give me the gossip, what's happening, what's like, tell me the juicy stuff, like what's going on, and it can be amazing. Like it can just be, you can cycle through just like the whole, range of emotions in a session, and it's something I love about it.
But I'm very keen on knowing your opinion on a specific thing right now. Then, which is kind of related to this, but because I think we both agree that it is a duty of care on the part of the two artists. But the thing is, how do you stand then on sometimes also recognizing when somebody's not in the space right now where they should be getting tattooed? For example, somebody that's gone through something truly traumatic or want to get a tattoo immediately after a really rough breakup or something like that. Because I think the ethical thing there to do sometimes is saying, hey, not right now, babes, give it a month or two.
Absolutely. And this is where it's like, this is part of the experience of being a tattoo artist and the consistency in which you see people in vulnerable spaces.
Absolutely.
And this is where there is maybe that intersection with being a therapist or a counselor, where it's like you notice micro, like expressions and tone of voice and body language, and I do without that, I have on my booking form, I have a little section at the bottom that talks about is there anything specific that you'd like me to know to tailor your appointment to you, like if this is mental health issues, disability, like anything that I can sort of that would be good for me to know so that you're the most comfortable you can be. But there have been, clients who in the design, in showing them the design or even if like the design's perfect, they're just not like and I try and check in with them in a way where it's like they're safe to, where I give them the opportunity. I'm like, you don't have to get this done today. This is going to be for the rest of your life. So it's like, time is not of the essence. Like you can wait. And it's more important that I tattoo you in a space, in a headspace that, can tolerate this, because it is putting your body under stress. And so if you're not in a space to do that, then you have absolutely free reign to reschedule. I'm not going to be angry. I would be more upset if you just powered through and this was a horrible experience for you.
It can hurt them down the line. For example, I can't remember where I experienced this, but I was sitting at the tattoo studio once, and this person came in clearly like really, and I didn't know who they were. I was just sitting there. I can't remember, but the artist they were going to see knew them quite well. And they recognized they were having a manic episode. They were borderline. So they refused them that day because they knew from knowing them so well that they're going to get this now while they're manic, and they're going to get something that they're going to absolutely hate once this episode's over, and it's going to haunt them. So they luckily recognize that.
And that's the
And
thing.
instead of thinking of like just,
if you have that relationship with your client base, if you can know that, it's a lot to take on for sure. But if you have
absolutely,
recurring clients and you do get to know them in that environment, then you can tell, if that person. And I think it's really important to never put any pressure on someone, but also let people know that they're allowed to say no. They're always allowed to withdraw that consent.
absolutely.
And it works both ways, I think. Like, I think that it's important that, clients can withdraw that consent and be like, look, I'm not in a good space. I actually want to say no. But sometimes that, lots of people pleasers out there. Sometimes they'll not, if they want to make a change to the design and they think that
Yeah,
they're
I'm
going
not
to
going to
like,
say anything or
they're going to
anything.
like, stress you out or whatever. And it's like, no, babe, it's in my best interest that you have the best design, or you have the design that you want. It's your comfort is paramount here.
Absolutely.
My ego doesn't come into it at all. But the same goes for us. It's like if we're put in a really uncomfortable position, which luckily is, I've not had to stop a session for that, very, very luckily. But we're allowed to say no as well. But ultimately, it's like creating that safety for people to say no if they need to.
I think it's important, especially with some of the hustle culture that sometimes infects the tattoo world, to sometimes learn to have this health over money mindset. Because I'm not saying give tattoos out for free or anything like that, but in such situations as this, it's important to be like, it is just, that one. And it might be scheduled another time. It might be work out way better down the line. So I'll say no this time because for X, Y, and Z reason, it's not going to happen right now.
Yeah,
But I
absolutely.
think a lot of people, they're like, no, because the money's there. So now you got to get that tattoo. And they're like, oh, the money's there. So now I got to do that
There's
tattoo. And
pressure. There's
either's not
pressure,
great, Yeah, exactly. There's a
It's
lot of
like,
pressure. But
take the hit. It's like I think a lot of people
yeah,
just forget the permanence of this. It's like some people are very
take
blasé.
it from the tattoo sociologist. That very much seems to be the case on both sides of the needle sometimes,
I
that
think
people forget
so.
the permanence of
I
this.
think so. And I mean, it's like I've been pretty blasé about tattoos in the past. I don't have too many regrets, but like I think that it's important for people to remember that it's like
Yeah.
that it's not going to be the worst thing if you don't get this today.
It's not a
If you're not in the
race.
headspace, if you need to cancel, you need to cancel. Sometimes I'm just like, even if I could have done with the money, it's like I'm like, oh, surprise day off, cool, let's
Exactly,
go.
but it's funny because that's a very important lesson in what you're saying there too on the part of the clients and the whole ethics of this sometimes. That I think people don't realize sometimes that they don't need to hurry and do this. There's nobody's timing them. When can you be covered by? When can you like? And that people forget sometimes. Also because they probably don't have a chance to often talk with people that are really, massively covered. That even some of the ones that are really heavily covered still get nervous before a session because it's still a massive decision, especially if
Absolutely,
it's a big tattoo.
absolutely.
And people don't talk about this enough because there seems to be not as much as it used to be. I'm very happy to say, at least as I'm noticing it, as another sociologist I know have noticed it. But there's still sort of this idea that like, oh, don't put too much meaning into it, or don't think too much about it, or just have fun with it. And it comes from a lot of separate camps with different motivations for why they think this way. But the fact of the matter is, even though there's no overt narrative tied to the tattoo, it still can be incredibly meaningful, and it is vitally important to notice that it will still, for better or worse, anchor something into your skin.
Absolutely. So make sure the sort of, make sure everything's in place for that to happen. I I can only talk from the experience that I have with my own tattoos and the way that they have
Yeah,
grounded me and in my identity and how I feel about myself as a tattooed person versus when I wasn't tattooed,
yeah,
and just the way that I can then share that with other clients who are trying to like maybe take control of their bodies or
yeah.
cover up bad memories or have memorial tattoos, all these things. It's like,
or make new ones. Like,
that's the thing, or get something silly. They just want to get a silly tattoo. Like, it's fine. Again, it doesn't have to have
yeah,
anything,
absolutely.
but it's just
No problem with a silly
But
tattoo.
no
I have
one
a couple
should.
of silly
But
tattoos.
no one should feel any pressure whilst
No,
doing that.
exactly.
As long as you're not no showing, like, I think no showing is difficult because, again, it's, if you have to, you have to. But there's consideration, isn't there? There's sort of like a courtesy.
I agree.
But and that's just basic courtesy. Just let me know, even if it's 5 minutes before the appointment. Pop me a message. Let me know. That's
It's
fine.
sort of like the old pickpocket messages on the tube. If you see something, say something. If you can't come, let them know.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just it's good to be considerate, but
Like, even if it's an hour after the time, just say something.
truly, I think so. That's the only time where I'll ever. I think I did, like, earlier saying, like, don't talk shit about your clients online. I think that's the only time I've ever, like.
I do, but the thing is, everything should always be taken. Like, people need to start remembering that you can add nuance to what people talk about sometimes in your own head as well.
Absolutely.
Because people are either all very fatalistic as this. And the thing is, it's insinuated here as well that I'm not saying there's never a good reason to talk shit about a client, or there's never a horrible client. Of course, there's some right cunts out there going to two studios sometimes, but the average client, let's assume they're all right, and most people in the world mean well.
Yeah. That's how I like to assume.
Same.
Be quite naive sometimes, but
even I've seen cunts walk into the two studios. Like, fuck, I'm not even a tattoo artist. I've just hung out with them enough of them to have witnessed this. Like, I'm not refuting that at all. But most people that walk into the tattoo studio are not there to harass anybody or make be a problem for the artist. Same with most artists today. I don't think they mean to sometimes do the wrong thing. They just don't have the training or the forethought.
I think it's the forethought as well, and I think it's everyone's very much living in the moment, and I think that having that forethought is really important. Like, play the long game.
Take it from an overthinker. Living in the moment is overrated at times.
Truly, like, I relate. But I think just being able to sort of see how connection with clients, the way that you sort of operate online, mailing lists, all that sort of things, like investing in art, all the things we've sort of touched upon, like, they're for the long game, and they may not sometimes have, like, instant gratification, like, but they will, create this more sustainable, like, long-term foundation, for good.
Even if they never come back, it's still going to be better because I mean, I actually thought about this earlier today, thinking about interviewing you later, and how we're going to talk about some of this stuff. The thing is, most people, when they talk about the tattoo, will mention the artist first.
Yeah, isn't it cool?
Whether it's a good or bad tattoo. Don't you rather want to be on the person where it's like, oh yeah, this was an awesome tattoo, that was incredible artist Lozzy out of, instead of be like, oh yeah, I hate this tattoo, I'm getting it covered up, it was done with this bitch Lozzy.
This is the thing. The thing is that, like, when it's not, it's because I don't like this sort of pedestaling of tattoo artists either. I think that it's...
No, I agree.
I think as long as that client is like, oh, like, Lozzy did my tattoo, she's really nice, hey, exactly. Friend, you should also go to her, that word of mouth thing. Like, as long as it's...
That's also what happens, because even if they might not come back, they might send somebody else your way.
This is my point, and this is why it's not just a, like, oh, I'm just being kind to one client. It's like, that is the best marketing. That is the best marketing for you.
Absolutely.
Word of mouth will always be, word of mouth, walk-ins, all this sort of stuff will always be the backbone of tattooing, I think.
Like, there's this cool tattoo artist that keeps calling me babes half the time.
Stop.
No, but it's also brings me to another point I've made a couple of times. I think you might be excited about this, because I think this is one thing I like to mention now and then, because I think it will help some artists out there that struggle with this, balancing good relations with clients with their desire to create and evolve their art. And the fact of the matter is that sometimes when you want to create in that way and improve your craft and that, of course you judge the technicalities a lot, but you might judge them a bit too harshly and forget what actually makes it too great. And the thing is, it's the client satisfaction that makes the tattoo great.
I couldn't agree more. Absolutely.
And when you look back at your work, you need to remember that sometimes, because I think a lot of artists, this is not for you, Lozzy. I think you might actually be too good at this. So this is not a lesson for you, so to speak. But I see so many artists, when they look back at the work and talk about it sometimes, they're like, oh, I'm so shit back then. I'm so much better now. But the thing is, try and remember as well that client might still love that tattoo.
You got to be careful. You've got to be careful. And I'm very guilty.
But the client might still think it's their favorite tattoo ever.
Absolutely. I've been guilty of it, where it's like, I'm cautious about the language I use around it, especially if it's like in front of clients too. Where it's like, I was earlier in my career then, and I've learned some new techniques since.
I absolutely understand that you look back at it and go like, what did I do back then?
And even though, I might look at it and like wince, it's like
wince a bit.
That person still wanted to come and get tattooed by me at that time. And people do grow and evolve and learn new skills and, perfect their craft. And I have some clients who are like my ride or dies. Like, they've been with me since I was an apprentice, and they love having a visual, a map of where I've been and what I'm doing now. And it's really not, it's beautiful. It's such a nice thing to sort of experience when they're just as sort of passionate about the work I was doing 9 years ago as I'm doing now. And I'm so grateful to these people who are just, again, these are the people who will consistently sort of come back. I think that is the sort of advice I would give, to my apprentice or to anyone like in the industry, is that like, we all have days where maybe it didn't go how we'd planned it. It's still, but like, that client is still absolutely, chuffed with that tattoo. Like, they absolutely love it, and they will, wear it with pride forever. Exactly. But it's like, you have got to put your ego to bed a little bit after that, and just be like, right, cool. Tomorrow's another day. Tomorrow's another tattoo. Like, let's crack on.
Absolutely.
And I think just like perfecting skills and stuff, like and trying new things or experimenting, it's like, you can communicate with your clients about that. You can be like, hey, I'm thinking about maybe trying this, or
that's
how do you feel about this?
Once you just remember a cool thing with this sleeve that was done by the guy who did most of my first tattoos, where he's like, oh, I've gotten so into dot work nowadays, can we do some of this design in dot work? I was like, sure, I've never tried dot work before, but usually did new school. Turned out really cool. Like, even though it's like his early experimentation with it.
Exactly.
Still really cool, but he was open about that, so I was so into it,
Yeah, I've done that with a few clients, and it's just been like, I'm going to try something. Are you okay with me trying this? You can say no, we can do it like this instead, but like, would you be like, I think it's going to go, and I probably wouldn't do that if I didn't, like, I wouldn't blindside my client like that if I didn't think I could absolutely do it. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's
also, I doubt you would do it with somebody you've never tattooed before.
Right? So, we go for the ride or die clients who have got those older.
You're like, I know we don't know each other, but I'm going to try something exciting.
Yeah, like, we're going to go crazy today. But yeah, it's
let's get real wild with it.
I just think like it's.
But it goes back to that thing we talked about before with the open communication. This also works in that way, and it often builds something quite beautiful. Like, it goes back to all the stuff we talked about with trust and connection.
Absolutely, and never underestimate the power of letting your client know that you're having a great time doing that tattoo.
Oh yeah.
Like, never underestimate the power of saying like, oh, I'm really excited about this, or this is going really well. Even if like, I know that, the tortured artist, like, sort of identity and being really self-deprecating and all that sort of stuff. It's like, if that's going well, you let them know about that, because your client will appreciate knowing that. It ties into that whole, like, it's not just about the tattoo, it's about you as well and your relationship. And if you're enthusiastic about it, they will trust you even more. They will feel even safer. They will feel more comfortable, and they'll bloody come back because they'll see how excited you are for their ideas, and they'll want to continue that client artist relationship. And it's a lovely thing.
It ties beautifully back. It's an incredible thing, to be honest. It ties back to a point I've made a couple of times to this show, I think, by now. But the fact of it is, if you that's the biggest part of it, that's why we're so into, I think, as well, the social aspect of ethics. Because the thing is, it's art on people. You gotta know how to handle people, both you
Absolutely.
work with and you work on. Else, paint walls
Do something else.
or
Again, I
canvases,
agree.
yeah, because that is the vital aspect of tattooing. That it's a craft, but it's also a people industry.
Absolutely. And not to say, it's like we touched upon sort of like neurodivergent artists and clients and stuff. It's
Yes,
like,
yes.
things like loop headphones exist. Like if you feel overwhelmed and,
I mean, I think I
again,
talked with Kes about this. That because Kes was so adamant about the open communication with clients. So that's the thing me and her talked about there. They're like, we're not saying you have to talk to people. If you feel that way, just communicate openly to clients that, hey, I focus and I need headphones on. So just like tap my
absolutely.
shoulder, do a silent, send me a smoke signal,
Yeah,
fucking
yeah.
get a pigeon flying or something, and
Because
I'll
not
take them
not
off and
every
talk to you.
not every client wants to sit and chat away for you for the whole time. Like
That's the other
sometimes
part, half of it. There's clients are also sometimes like, I just need to focus. I'm just gonna have my
absolutely.
iPad out.
And then I'm like,
No,
great, cool, let me know what you need, because I think that it's just about like whatever the client needs that day. If they want to chat away to me. I've had clients who are like, I'm gonna put
you can
headphones
probably
on.
imagine I'm not the one to bring a book into the system.
I find it wild that people can read whilst getting tattooed. I think I
That is
tried
also
it
wild to
once.
me.
I tried it once and I basically read the same line over and over again. Just absolutely hated it. But
I can't even be on my phone sometimes while I'm being tattooed. I'm just like, I need to talk, because if I talk, this doesn't hurt.
I've had clients sometimes who, they go to put the headphones on and then they're like, no, I want to talk now, actually. Like, and it's like, great, cool, whatever you need. But sometimes it'll be like, first few hours, we'll have a chat away, it'll be great. And then we settle
Then
in. But
they,
I communicate that to the client. I'm like, you let me
yeah.
know what you want to do, because I'm fine with either. It's like I can lock in.
And you
And
let me know if it turns Fight Club and we shut the fuck up and don't talk about
absolutely.
it.
Or we can do bloody karaoke later, which has definitely happened a couple of times with a few clients. You know
All
who
right.
you
I
are.
mean,
Um,
we're certainly also getting to know a lot about the process of getting tattooed by Lozzy right now.
yes, it's obnoxious singing a lot of the time, and just
I have a weird feeling, and it's not to uh, what's it called, profile a British person, but I have a feeling Spice Girls might be on the menu if you go karaoke.
how very dare you? I mean, yeah, we might look once in a while, but it's more Alanis Morissette. It's more Alanis Morissette, but we're fine. We have
All right, all
range.
right.
We have range. But yeah, anyway, it's just like I think that again, accommodating for those needs and being um that empathetic to those needs, like understanding that
Yeah.
like your client maybe their body language or the way they're sort of what do they need in that moment, and just being not overbearing but just checking in and making sure that they're comfortable.
But I think that's a vitally important point before we sort of start winding down for the episode, so I don't keep you all night long talking of karaoke.
I'm just gonna have
But
that.
uh, the thing of like being able to communicate that and being able to have the client's benefits and my comfort in mind and all that, it's also important the way that a lot of clients, like we talked about a bit earlier, can be quite intimidated by the situation or quite overwhelmed by it almost. They don't know what to ask, but it's also great for them to feel like they can mention if there's something they're nervous about or ask questions about, like, so what is the hygienic rules there? Because they might be asking both because they're curious, but also because they're worried, because there's a lot of fear mongering out there from a lot of different media sources about what
Absolutely.
can go wrong with a tattoo session and what sort of allergic reactions or illnesses or whatever they can get.
I think
So
there's so many ways you can get around a client's anxiety even before they step in the studio.
yeah,
have a
absolutely.
have a website, have an FAQ, make it known that there's a reviews page, because I think that more often than not, people will still go to the reviews.
And you can always delete the bad reviews later. No,
You can't, can you?
no, you can't.
I'm
It would
very,
be funny if
very
you can.
passionate about my review page. But yeah, anyway, like there's so many things that you can just, again, I think when it comes to creating like a safe and tolerant and inclusive space, like you don't get to call yourself that. You don't get to call yourself a safe space.
That's such an important point both Paula and Kes also made. That like all the signage you want to put up with that's not what makes you inclusive
No,
or diverse minded
it's
or anything like that.
performative. I think a lot of the time it's
Yeah,
performative. I agree with I have a lot of respect for both of those women, and I think that
yeah, I
there's
know, I
a
know.
there's a performativity to it, and you don't get to say that. Your clients do,
No.
and give them the opportunity to do that by just operating that way, right? Like just, sorry, you were like,
I would say performative is not the right word, just from a sociological point of view, because that means you're just doing it in the moment to perform it. It's more like it requires action. It requires actual engagement with it to make it happen.
yeah, for sure. But it's like
you can't just sign
it has to have substance behind it. It can't just be
That's
like,
what I mean. I got what you meant. It was just to clear up that, because performative, at least in a social certificate sense, means that it mainly, I think, that like without
well, I think
only
my point,
acting.
I think my point is that you know, you can basically, like, you can talk the talk, but everyone's capable of harm. Everyone is capable of causing
exactly
harm.
What I mean. Yeah.
And so I think that if you make a really big song and dance about being like a really inclusive, like, you know, space, like, and safe, and you know, you can come here and you'll be fine, you'll be safe. It's like, don't absolve yourself from the ability to cause harm, even if it's not intentional, even if it's like on a micro level. Everyone is capable of that. And so you do what you do in your space, like, you know, you operate in a way that you would want someone to feel, you know, safe and accommodated for, but let your client base, like, let your clientele decide.
Absolutely.
You know, for that, state your intentions by all means, but it's not up to you. And I think that that's something that is important to touch upon.
I fully agree. I wasn't disagreeing with
that.
No,
I know.
Sorry, as I warned you, I'm a complete pedant when it comes to certain terminology and stuff like that. Is that the other thing I think is the performative thing, that studios pretend to be inclusive, but then actually don't act on it.
Yeah,
so
absolutely. There's no
performance
substance
basically
it.
Online. The performative aspect that becomes that, like, oh yeah, we're all inclusive, we're so into diversity, we're so like safe and all. And then when you get there, they're fucking not. You know?
Absolutely. I think I when I first opened the studio, I really like, with Lou, we had a discussion. It's like, I wanted this space to be like trauma informed as well. Like, that was something that I was such an important part of you know, the client artist relationship, being able to make sure no one needs to be more traumatized than they need to be, like, through the
hopefully not. Hopefully.
You know, like, but just making sure, like, you know, but not performatively, you know. Do you see what I mean? Where it's like, I wanted to create an environment where no one was like speaking really loudly about, like, you know, really traumatic, triggering things, where, like, you never know who's been through what. You've never known, you know, like, don't, you know, comment on people's, you know, bodies and stuff that they can't change and all this sort of stuff. Like, keep an awareness for people's comfort at every point during the tattooing experience. But, you know, that is something that is like a lifelong and like studio long, you know, endeavor.
Absolutely.
So
it's something you do every day.
Yeah, absolutely.
You have to keep consistently acting on that.
Absolutely. And people are, you know, fallible. We'd like mess up. It's you know, but it's what you
people also forgive you more if you normally, you know.
I think that's the thing. And so the humanity of it is like, is nuanced, and I think that,
I mean, if you're just behaving like absolute cunts and being mean to everybody that comes into your studio, nobody's going to forgive you for that, because you're just being fucking horrible.
Really, but if it's a slip up and someone says something silly, it's just like, you know, but also approaching that as well, like, in a way where it's just like, I know this didn't have like malice behind it, but it upset me. Like, can we have a discussion about it, sort of thing, you know? And I just think, again, it's going back to that, like, not walking on eggshells thing, and like creating safety to have people be able to tell you that they're annoyed or they're upset, or that they're, you know, clients and artists. I think that's important.
Absolutely. I think that's a beautiful thing to like tie it up with. Like, there's this mutual comfort that's created through ethics, you know.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, I hope at least.
Well, we're trying. It's I love running a studio, and I love the people I work with, and I love my clients, and I love tattooing.
Clearly, so like, I mean, I've rarely, and I mean this in the best way possible, met anybody so clearly in love with what they do and so passionate about doing it well for everybody involved.
I told you, she yearns.
I'm regretting the episode title now. That would have been great. Like, she yearns.
I'm just,
That would have been the
I'm just like,
best. That would have been the best bamboozle ever because it sounds so misogynistic from a male-run podcast. She yearns,
I'm
and
glad
then it's
you're, I'm glad
all
you're
about
keeping it.
diversity. Like,
I just,
yeah, I'll keep.
I'm just
I'd rather have the other one.
I'm
Okay.
painfully earnest about
Yeah.
how in love with
The
tattooing I
yearning.
am, and I have sort of stopped being so concerned with being cool
Yeah.
about it and chill. Like I'm not. I love it
Fuck
so
being cool
much.
about it,
I
man. I'm
just
not
love
cool
it so
about anything
much.
I'm nerdy about.
And again, it's like I'm grateful for everyone involved who lets me
Yeah.
who affords me the ability to do this. That's the artists I work with. That's my business partner. That's my client base. You know, like I am so in love with tattooing, and I'm so glad that I get to do it in a space that, you know, I can have other people like see how much I love it, and hopefully, like, you know, create an environment for them to feel safe to love it
I
as
mean,
much as I do as
honestly,
well.
with how you behave, I think people would get it even if you sat out on a molehill fucking tattooing. Like, you could be out there in a fucking canvas bag doing tattooing people, and they'll still get how like you'd sit in a white walled cell, and they'll still get how much you love tattooing. I
It's
think.
probably just because I'd be like grinning and exclaiming it constantly, just like, I love this.
Yeah.
This is amazing.
Are you as excited as I am? Like,
I really, really hope that, you know, because it's like, it's 9 years, which isn't like that
yeah.
long, really, in the grand scheme of things. Like, there are plenty
No,
of
but
people I know that have been tattooing far longer, but
yeah.
I think still loving it at this point gives me such hope for the future.
I wouldn't be surprised if you still love it in 9 years' time.
Good. I hope so.
I mean, that's my judgment at least. I mean, I can't make no guarantees, but I would feel pretty safe betting on that, to be honest.
Good. Cool. I need to like look after my hands. Make sure.
I mean, I did see a guy tattoo with a prosthesis once, but yeah.
Very cool. All right, there's hope.
But I mean, we already sort of started winding down a bit more and having a more light-hearted giggle. Now we also had a good bit of laughs. We have been talking about something quite deep, though.
Yeah,
So I always
yeah.
love to wind down a little bit with something light-hearted here in the end. And I think I'll stick to what I originally had planned because I think it might be a really funny answer. But has there been any like piss your pants laugh moments in the studio already? Because I know it's relatively new.
Oh my goodness. It's really hard. I was like looking you'd sent me that question. I was looking at it and
Yeah, I
like
know.
I was trying to like rack my brains. There was a couple of years ago we all went on like a little studio holiday together, and we went to we went to Centre Parks, which was like fun because, you know, it's like it's a chalet, there's a hot tub, there's copious amounts of
Yeah.
alcohol, there's a water park if you want it. Like, you know, it
Yeah.
was lovely.
There's
It's
a
just
place just like that in Denmark too, so I get what you mean.
it
Again.
like covered all bases. And there was we all went to the water park, and we went on, and I'm terrified like of theme parks, of like, you know, I can do the occasional water slide, like it's not my favorite thing to do, but I sort of check in with myself every like 5 years or so to make sure I still hate
Let's
it.
try it again.
Yeah,
Like.
just to make sure I still hate it, but, you know, just to cover all bases. But we went down this one like flume, and it was a 4-person rubber ring, and we were all facing each other, and it was like, okay, all right, okay, this is fine, this is cool, and it like dropped you into this massive half pipe, and I don't think I'd ever been so terrified, and none of my co-workers had like ever seen me in that sort of environment
State.
before. I also stupidly wore my glasses, like I had my glasses on, which was really dumb. And those like almost came flying off, and it just, yeah, it was afterwards we were all rolling about pissing ourselves, and everyone saying they've never seen me look so terrified before.
I get why.
Yeah. That whole holiday was great. We had a lovely time. We spent a lot of time
That's
playing
fantastic. It
pool
seems like
and
you build a
drinking
real
wine.
family of like a bond in that studio, to be honest.
I think we have a laugh for sure. Yeah,
You gotta have
it's
a
good
laugh.
fun.
What a beautiful note to end it on. First of all, here at the end, I want to thank very much, by the books. I can't thank it enough. I had such a fantastic time.
I had a lovely
interview
time
with this
too. Thank you
podcast, and
so
I'm so
much.
happy you came on. Hopefully, it's not only Adam's coercion that made you come on.
No, it's good. Honestly, you've had some like incredible artists on here, just some incredible people, and it's been a pleasure. And thank you so
Thank you
much
so much.
for having me on
I
this.
mean, I doubt you need this, but it's only fair. Would you please plug yourself on the studio and everything?
Um, yeah, I feel like if you've listened to the entire podcast, I probably didn't go longer than
Yeah,
5 minutes
come
without
up.
talking
It's
about it.
come up. Yeah.
Um, you can follow me on Instagram, Lozzy Bones Tattoo. I co-own a studio called Heart of Glass Tattoo, which is on the south coast in Worthing. It's a lovely seaside town, and we have 8 artists, and they're all incredible. Heart of Glass Tattoo on Instagram, and yeah, we'd love to see you there. We're starting to run events at the
Oh,
studio.
nice.
We're doing like, I think we've got plans for like a spooky sort of like makers market where we all create artwork for that for sort of Halloween. Um,
I must admit, that was one moment where I was reminded I actually am not British. So first when you said Maker's Mark, I was like, are they dwarves? Is this Lord of the Rings? What the fuck is going on here?
we love a market.
It dawned on me what it's probably like now.
Everyone
There's
loves the
great
craft.
stuff
Yeah.
for it. Yeah,
Everyone loves the craft
yeah.
market. But yeah, we had one at Christmas and it was lovely. But yes, we're gonna start putting
Fantastic.
on some events and I'm hoping to do some like life drawing events and stuff soon. So yeah, it's
Well,
please do follow us and check out the wonderful artists we've got with us. We have guests occasionally, but yeah.
occasionally. Well, thank you so much, Lozzy. And to anybody listening or watching, thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Hello, everybody, and welcome again. What a great episode with the lovely Lozzy Bones from Heart of Glass. Absolutely such an incredible topic, and she was so eloquent and well spoken on it as well. And it may be a longer episode, but trust me, it is absolutely needed when you're talking about something as important as ethics in tattooing. And I think it's vital that people start to understand that even though it is amazing and great that tattoo artists are doing a lot to be have great hygiene and to make it safe for their clients to go under the needle, so to speak, it's also important that we realize the social aspects and psychological aspects of good ethics and what that means in the tattoo space. Well, that being said, next time we're having a bit of a gear shift. I have the great honor of having Matthew Larkin, aka Matsy, on the podcast for the 50th episode of this podcast. And we're going to be talking about anime tattoos and whether it is its own style or just a massive trend within the tattoo world. No matter what, it's a great topic and it's going to be a great discussion, and we'll see you there.